Blessed be to the day. As I'm rocking back and forth, feeling myself real quick. Loving the energy, loving the flow. Goal and set. The goal, the intention, and manifest. The goal, intention, and manifest. Goal, intention, and manifest. The routine. My routine sets the place for my goal. My routine sets the place for my goal. My goal fuels my intention, and my intention sets the paths of manifest. Key goal. This is how we assess the placeholders versus the options for our success. Remember, we talked about it Thursday. Success is options. That means any goal that I set, any intention that, any goal that is being set by, and I'm living through my routine, any intention that is being brought to me, any intention that I'm putting set to maintain that goal, in the paths of the manifest are everything that's based on the successful options. A lot of times we get stuck in trying to set our goals through the emotional placeholders. Think about emotional placeholders like this. If you ever watch basketball, you ever watch hockey, you ever watch something and you always saw like the goaltending, that thing that always goes to the goal, that is stopping the shot from going through the goal. This happens a lot of times when we're looking at these emotional placeholders. This happens a lot of times when we're moving in this state of the emotional placeholders. Those emotional placeholders. Things that keep me within a certain state of behavior. Things that keep me within a certain state of behavior. Things that keep me within a certain state of mind. Things that keep me reverting back to my pattern, or keeping that pattern, or maintaining that habit. Those are the things that a lot of times when we're coming into our new goals and it comes into the aspects of support. Remember, we're thinking about support. So if I'm in my state and I'm thinking about my support system is outside of my comfort zone. That means this, whenever you're hearing someone talk about like, don't look for family and friends and everybody to support you in that. Look for the strangers. Look for the people that don't know you. It's because now you can build an authentic credibility. Peace, peace, peace. You now can build this new sense of accountability with yourself. This new set of responsibilities for yourself outside of your comfort zone. Therefore, my routine takes me outside of my comfort zone because it's helping me set a goal. Remember, when we set a goal, you're not setting a goal that can be reached inside of comfort. That means my intentions cannot be fueled by what's inside of my comfort zone. That means my intentions will not bring paths that are going to leave me within my comfort zone. Therefore, now I got to test my emotional. We got my emotional placeholders. The goaltenders. The things that keep me within a certain pattern, the things that keep me within a certain behavior, the things that I always can seem to run to based on advisement to stay on the old path. Remember, everything with your intentions are taking you outside of your comfort zone. My goal is to maintain my peace and to learn my peace, for example. My goal is to maintain and learn my peace. That means my routine is rooted in peace, learning my peace, evaluating myself of the things that do not bring me peace, evaluating the things that are not allowing me to stay within balance of myself, tapping into the things that no longer benefit me growing into that space. Therefore, my intentions that I set, whether it being something of, okay, cool, I'm going to the gym more, I'm meditating more, I'm going for my walks, I'm taking more time to myself, I'm putting purpose behind my self-care routine. These are the things that I'm now setting my intentions in. So now everything that comes up in the path of manifest, the paths that manifest in front of me, the first things that are going to come up are a lot of the emotional placeholders. That means the things that make me feel insecure. So now I'm thinking about my goal of going to the gym. So if I think about my goal and going to the gym, the first things that are going to come up, which are based on emotional placeholders, is my insecurity in what I'm about to wear to the gym. I don't know every workout. I don't know my workout routine. I don't know how much weight I can use. I don't know my sense of resistance. So those are going to be the first things that come up in my space. So now we got to look at the physical manifestation of those things coming into your space. You can have that friend that don't want to go to the gym with you. Have that friend that don't want to go to the gym with you. Girl, man, I don't want to go to the gym, man, because like all them big buff dudes in there. Girl, I don't want to go to the gym because what if I fall on the treadmill? Those are manifestations of emotional placeholders. They hold the underlines to your original insecurities. They hold the underlines to your insecurity, your doubt, and aspects of that nature. So now I have to assess, instead of me looking at it as, well, fine, or looking at, remember that reaction to stay in my comfort zone, I have to be able to say to myself, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get used to it. I'm going to let you know how it was. That's how you need to look. This is how you need to start moving when you're coming into your goals. This is how you start coming into your goals. This is how you got to start setting your intentions. This is how you start becoming more efficient in what comes into your space to manifest. Because think about it like this. I've talked about this before. If I have the goal of making, if I got the goal of making 10 G's, let's say I want to make $10,000. My routine has to match that of, before I even get to it, my mentality or my routine that I create has to be in the form of me maintaining $10,000. And then when you think about $10,000, like until you have 20,000, you only got 5,000. So my mindset or my intentions or my goals opening up is taking me outside of the comfort zone of being able to maintain $5,000. Now look at your aspects of your routine right now, your budget, how you spend your money, where you spend your money in, the leisure aspects. It all goes to the aspects of my goal is based on sacrifice. My goal is based on sacrifice. My goal is based on suffering to go without something that maintains that emotional placeholder. That's when you start looking at your urges. That's when you start looking at your urges. Your urges are powered by your emotional wounds or these aspects of that nature: jealousy, insecurity, avoidance, acceptance, rejection. Those are the things that are going to feed those emotional placeholders, because it becomes easy for me to say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym. As an example, it becomes easy for me to say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym. It's easy. But now I look into space and I'm thinking about money. How do I maintain a membership? I'm always going to think about some extreme based on dependence upon emotional placeholders or the extreme narrative. Now I got to think about, what am I going to wear to the gym? I got to make sure I look fly at the gym. I got to make sure I'm presentable. I got to make sure that I got the best workout equipment. So now guess what can fill into your space? Everything that can defer you, that can be an opportunity. We talked about that on Friday during the lecture. Everything that can defer me, or everything that can be my opportunity. In reality with myself, I have to get back down to my authentic self. For me, when I first started going to the gym, sweatpants, I had a pair of running shoes, clean them up, I had some cleaner for them, clean them up, put a hoodie on, and started going to the gym. All I had to make sure I had my headphones, and I could start doing my workouts. The more and more I was getting more in tune with just the basics of myself, outside of this external necessity, outside of maintaining an identity or maintaining this form, the faster it was for me to be able to break down. You see, when you're setting your goals The first aspect of your goal and your routine is to break down the old narrative. It's to assess those emotional placeholders. It's to assess the things that keep you acting a certain way, keep you moving a certain way, keep you in that certain tense. Therefore, now I can set clearer intentions without the aspect of that emotional placeholder. Now I can now see the paths that manifest in front of me that are all based in my opportunities to learn myself. I already know that, hey, I already knew that when I was first going back to the gym, I went back up to 220 pounds before I started going back to the gym. I knew that I gained that weight. I knew how I gained that weight. I knew the mentality I maintained to gain that weight. And I knew that I had to assess those aspects. The things that came into my space, they served a purpose based on an older concept of myself, but this new concept of myself is going to require me to shift. This new concept of myself is going to require me to shift my availability outside of, oh, I got to maintain. No. So now I got to look at everything in my space and see if it was based on an option. Remember, success is options. That means every option that falls into place is an opportunity for me to learn, grow, evaluate, reassess. I'm able to speak my intentions. I'm able to live inside my purpose. Anything that's an emotional placeholder is not going to be able to maintain that flow because it's not at that space. So that becomes one of the first sacrifices. So now when you're thinking about yourself coming into your healing process, when you coming into your healing, you coming into your shadow work, the first thing a lot of us think about when we're coming into our healing is, I'm not going to have the time to do this. I don't have time to sit down for 15 minutes. I ain't got time to sit down and meditate. I ain't got time to sit there and evaluate myself. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. All right, cool. Your routine matches that. So now everything in your routine is scatterbrained or it's scattered all around. You're finding yourself in all these other spaces trying to fix, trying to help, trying to heal others and help others, devoid of yourself in order for you to avoid yourself. Rather than me understanding now that as I start to implement change within myself, as I start to invest into the changes within me, as I start to take accountability within me, as I start taking these responsibilities for myself, as I start putting the purposes behind my self-care routine, everything around me is naturally going to do what it needs to do anyway. That's what everything around you is for. Remember, you're always in the right position. So if my intent is to heal myself, is to assess myself, that means my intentions are going to be set within the root, are going to be setting the tone or feeding my routines or feeding my intentions. That means the paths that are coming in front of me, they're going to manifest into the lessons that I need to learn. I might take this path a little bit. I might take that path a little bit. I might take a little bit of that path. But my whole goal is, while I'm taking these different paths, is I have a purpose on to learn that path. What can I learn based on this path? When we get stuck in the result, remember I've talked about it before, when you get stuck on that result, well, I want to look like this, or I want to be like this. This is what happens a lot of times when it comes to you listening to the teacher. When you're listening to certain aspects, you taking in this information, you'll look at it from the emotional placeholder content. So if you know that a lot of your traumas and a lot of your experiences have left you frustrated, angry, and you may have been able to move through anger very well, move through your sorrow, that gave you a sense of purpose, moving through frustration, that gave you a sense of purpose. That means using the fear as your catalyst to give you that sense of purpose in your moves. Then guess what you're going to do naturally? You're going to go look for things that are based on that same frequency to keep you within that comfort zone. Therefore, you'll listen to somebody that'll leave you separated from yourself because they always talking through a guise of anger. They're always moving through a guise of fear. You'll look at things to stay right. You'll look at things to stay right. Remember, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about learning the path. It's not about being right or wrong. Because there's things that you were right with that didn't serve you a purpose. There were things where you knew you were dead wrong and it served you more of a purpose than the shit that went right. Because it gave you a moment to learn yourself. It gave you a moment to get out of that comfort zone. So we're not looking for the right or wrong. Your healing is based on you stepping outside of that comfort zone. That's when we assess these emotional placeholders. The things that you always run to whenever you're stuck within a certain catalyst of emotion. And then what you create based on the catalyst of that emotion. What you try to fill that space up with. A lot of times when you're stuck within this void, when you're stuck within this space with yourself, when you don't have a routine set that's based on goals of yourself, when you're not setting intentions based on the growth of yourself, when you're not assessing these paths that are manifesting in front of you, that's when you keep trying to fill that space up with something when you have the time. Okay, cool. This is happening over here. They're doing this over here. They're doing this over here. I want to do something like that. I want to be involved in that. So now you start looking at that based on where you came from. That space that you were in before. That thing that you've been trying to fix. Remember, when you maintain in the trauma, and the trauma is your main supporter, you're always going to be trying to fix something. From aspects of family. Now you're trying to get the family you never had. You're trying to have the relationship that you never saw. You're trying to get the opportunities with money and to be able to do these things that you never did before. But you're not filling in the space with your intention. You're not filling in that space with your intention. So now you're suffering. What you're thinking is suffering is where's the sacrifice? You rather suffer to keep that space full than sacrifice to empty out that space. Remember, you're supposed to be becoming empty. On your path, you become more and more empty. On your path, since you become more and more empty, you become more and more focused. There's that false sense of focus when you're trying to fill yourself to maintain that program or that identity. That's what we're getting into this week on the God Hour podcast, when we get into the aspects of nothingness, the realm of the no self. Everything that I remember for myself, everything that I was doing before this point, I had to come to terms and be honest that I was simply feeding the program and setting emotional placeholders for my programming, my staying within my trauma, and then that what fed my triggers. That's what fed my space. So everything that I was doing when things were falling apart, things were going bad, things were going crazy, things were going the way I didn't want them to go, or they weren't going according to the plan that I had set, I had to realize that I was fighting stepping into that path of nothingness. I was fighting the identity versus nothingness. Because when I thought about nothingness, I thought about my self-worth. When I was thinking about being nothing, I was always set to the connotation that being nothing was bad. Having nothing is bad. Not being able to provide was bad. Not being able to protect was bad. Not being able to guide or have wisdom was bad. But I had to understand, in order for me to gain that wisdom, to gain that ability for guidance, to gain that ability to apply that knowledge, I had to allow that identity to be destroyed. I had to allow that identity to be taken away. You cannot apply in the old ecosystem. These are the things that we're getting into this week on the God Hour podcast. The ecosystem. Your system based around fear. If you're used to the instantaneous, you're usually used to things based on fear. If you have that avoidance or that pattern or that habit where you're used to getting things really, really fast, it's usually accredited to rejection. The faster that you're either able to say something about your fault before, think about it like this. When you're sitting inside of a space and somebody's talking about your faults, you're used to motherfuckers chiming in on your faults or your flaws. You'll immediately make jokes about them just to maintain yourself into that space. So now everybody's accepting you because they accept themselves. But it's under the condition. It's under a condition. In order for me to maintain that space, I got to maintain that routine. That means in order to maintain that routine, my intention is to stay around in those keep those as my emotional placeholders. Therefore, my path will only be defined by what is holding my emotions. You see, when you come into that nothingness and that no self, that's when you find your value. That's when you step out of and you come into that's when you're stepping out of this sense of irregular introspective. That irregular introspective is when you look at yourself and you always have a bias about it. So you look at yourself and you have a doubt about yourself. So you chime out on the doubt. You chime out on the insecurity. You chime out on that. So now every time you go into a space and somebody says something to you or brings something to you that can help you learn, stepping out of your comfort zone, you immediately think it's you. A lot of times when I'm going through it with my clients, it's why do I feel that I have clients, why do I feel that if I'm not able to maintain this mentality or this behavior, these habits, these patterns, then I'm not going to be worthy to anybody. The first person I got to be worthy to is myself. The first growth that I got to tap into is myself. That's a part of your progress. You're doing that while you're doing your work. That's why once I change my mentality that everything's an opportunity for me to learn myself, it helps me guide my routine into my nothingness. It helps me set my intentions into the nothingness. The only thing in the nothingness is my energy. The only thing in the nothingness is things that I have not assessed. Those are the things that create your space. Those are the things that create your path to manifest. I've talked about it before many times. Last year when it came to me being on this path that I'm on right now, I was sitting there had a whole conversation and I was like, yo, I'm literally on a Saturday sitting down, typing up emails and setting up intake forms to send out to clients. I'm now in control of my destiny. I'm in control of my routine and my intentions. I know that now it's a super sense of accountability and responsibility that if I don't send this email out, then I'm not going to get paid. They're not going to get help. I'm not going to be able to reciprocate that help. There's not going to be any growth. But you only see that once you step into that nothingness. See, when you're stuck in that program, you'll try to maintain the program to keep getting a little bit of something. Always wanting more, because that's the natural aspects of you being that divine being. You being that God. You being that goddess. You being that titan. You being whatever you want to be. You got to set that new tone. You got to assess those behaviors. You got to assess those habits and those patterns that you created. You got to allow all that shit to fall away and step into that nothing. But that's what we tapping into this week on the God Hour podcast. New episode, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be dropping everywhere. Stay tuned for the video ads and everything on that. And everything from the consultations to readings, seeing where you at, seeing where you need to go. Hit me up in the inbox. You can hit me at the number 910-249-3999, or hit me in the email, set Carlo Nijis or Papa Lucy 666 at gmail.com for both of them. Because I just desire you to be the fucking best. You've always been in the right position. You keep coming back to the same position because it's time for you to assess where you are at. You can't run away from this forever. You can, but you know what's going to happen. You know exactly what the outcome is. Stop being afraid of that outcome. It's time to embrace that path. I love you. We love us. Ashe.